Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Meredith.
It's one of those mornings where I forgot how we started this podcast, in case you're wondering where I'm at.
Okay, we can do it.
Right
We can do it. Welcome to Off With Their Headlines. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. That was good.
Okay, I did it. Welcome to Off With Their Headlines. I'm Amanda Matta. I was on the BBC this morning, and that's Meredith Constant.
I was reporting live from my bathroom on TikTok for about 4 people.
The duality of women.
Women, we get things done.
Women. So lots going on this week. As you know, we record on Mondays. As you are hearing this, actually, no, we're recording on Tuesday.
Well, we typically record on Monday. Today is Tuesday. Charles decided that he was just going to give a speech on Tuesday without considering our diary.
You know, yeah.
This is how you can tell the royal households are not in sync. No
This
one
is true.
considered our schedule.
Amanda and Meredith's royal household was not taken into consideration. So yes, King Charles is in Canada. He is currently, as we are recording, giving the speech from the throne to open Canada's 45th Parliament. We will have more on that later in the episode. But we also have a lot of business to get to. So I believe this is going to count as our May coffee/tea talk episode. It's just a potpourri kind of thing.
I got my Santa's mug.
Why?
I couldn't tell you. We have officially started summer here because Colorado doesn't believe in school days. And I think we apparently have the shortest school year of any.
That's surprising because Florida exists.
and Oklahoma. But listen, we might have one of the shortest school years, but we don't teach that the 2020 election was fraudulent.
This is true. So you got that going for you.
You know, but
so you can use a Santa mug if you want to use a Santa mug.
Because
is that what you're saying?
Everything is confusing now because the transitions are so hard when you're now out of the routine and trying to figure out, which way is up. And, and then we had Charles.
I love that for you. And then we have Charles.
Speech, which did not kick off on time. He's probably giving the speech now as we record.
That's okay.
But we were a little delayed. I wonder, Amanda, as an insider, could you tell me, is he delayed because William and Kate were busy shooting their pre-roll footage for a future Instagram video?
No, Meredith. In fact, I would say a king is never late. Everyone else simply did not have a detailed itinerary. And we were only told that he was arriving at 10 and we were not given the play-by-play.
That was very Clarice Rinaldi of you.
Thank you.
It was also over on our Patreon where you can get episodes ad-free and early and video episodes and all that good stuff. Bonus content. We rewatched The Princess Diaries 1 and 2. It was really, really fun. And I have to say, when I was editing our Instagram video to promote it, which go over on our Instagram, off with their headlines, when I put in actual clips of the things that we were referencing.
We were right there.
Beat for beat. We had the cadence down. I had the vocal tone of it was weird. It was uncanny. I mean, we know those movies.
Good at voices and quotes, getting the cadence. And I am so pleased to learn that you are good at it too, Meredith.
It was beautiful. I was very proud of us. We also have a very special royal announcement, actually.
Yes, related to the Patreon.
It's pretty big because we have many tiers over on our Patreon. Then as I promised that there is a crown jewel level. It's the highest of all levels. And we have promised that the first person to join the crown jewels.
Can't do it on every word.
Can't do it. Will get naming rights to Amanda's firstborn child. Scratch that. Will get naming rights to the nickname used online for Amanda and Shane's eventual in the future someday child.
Yes. And
ladies and gentlemen,
this is no longer a hypothetical.
We have a jewel. We have our jewel of the season. We are Queen Charlotte. It's just Amanda and I. We are wearing one big wig with a fishbowl in it or something.
Can't keep up with you. Oh my God.
I know, I'm everywhere. This is my brain. This is my brain on Adderall. So I think it's time for a knighting ceremony. So we just crashed into the trolley, Mia Thermopolis and Queen Clarice style, and we find something. Let's see what we have to crown. I have scissors. It would seem violent, but they're actually children's scissors. What do you have?
I have a Sharpie pen, but it's an elegant rose gold.
Okay, I love this. How are we knighting? What is this order? What are we? You're the one that knows this stuff.
You have asked me many a time if I'm including a particular flower in my wedding bouquet so as to kill my flower girls.
No.
I think we should go with the order of the baby's breath.
Corrupted you so
Or
beautifully.
the lily of the valley.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, so Neil,
Mhm.
our newest member of the Crown Jewels Circle, Christopher. And arise, Sir Christopher of the Order of the Baby's Breath.
You are now and forevermore Sir Christopher.
Thank you so much, Christopher, for joining the Crown Jewels.
Thank you so, so much. You will be receiving your personalized notes from Amanda and I in the mail very shortly. In my note, I have compiled some suggestions.
Legal documents for naming? Oh, no. Okay.
Some suggestions of nicknames that you might consider for Amanda and Shane's future child. So just let me know what you're thinking. I'm happy to workshop them.
Shane will be overjoyed.
Yes.
He loves a bit.
So do I. So we will let you know what Sir Christopher picks, but you're a legend, Christopher. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for your support and however you support. This was very fun.
This was very fun. I will have to edit it down because it was so long.
So fun. Keep most of it in. Okay. And I hear that we actually have a royal baby announcement, Amanda.
Yes. Moving right along into the royal content today, we had an unexpected royal birth announcement. Now, this was not posted on a framed piece of parchment on an easel outside of Buckingham Palace, but it is no less significant. It was announced last week through sources to the British press that William and Kate's beloved dog, Orla, has given birth to 4 puppies. Yes, that's right. The beloved Cocker Spaniel in the Kensington Palace household has delighted the royal couple's children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, who are already said to have fallen in love with the new arrivals. Now, I picked this for burying the lead because the framing is just so freaking funny. I think it might be a little self-aware from the British press. I think we might be aware of the over-the-top effusive language that we use to report on the royals, because here in the Standard we have a source told The Sun, mother and babies are doing well. And the puppies' names, along with the father's identity, remain under wraps.
Can we talk about what a scandal this is?
A paternity scandal within the palace.
Were they married first? Because this is a big deal. I mean, when we're talking about the line of succession, you know,
we need to know.
This is a big deal. Also, you texted me the story, and I would like to say what I texted back was, wow, palace security is really lax these days.
Orla, man. No, I do believe that this latest generation of puppies is coming from a long line of Cocker Spaniels. Orla is a black Cocker Spaniel that has been bred by the Middletons, because I believe Orla was a gift from James Middleton to Will and Kate back in 2020. So it seems that Cocker Spaniel breeding is a royal hobby we didn't know was going on at the palace. But now we're on, I think, the 3rd generation of Orla's line.
So this was a planned pregnancy.
I believe it was planned, but we are keeping the father under wraps, probably like Mindy Kaling has with BJ Novak. No, just kidding. We don't know the father. Allegedly, Mindy Kaling's children. Same kind of thing, I'm thinking. The insider told The Sun, we always thought the patter of tiny feet in the Wales household had ended, so the sound of tiny paws will have to do. It is not yet known whether the family plans to keep any of the weeks-old pups, and the couple's spokesperson has declined to comment.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Okay,
Yeah,
this is
wonderful.
The kind of article that I love because it's very self-aware of how ridiculous it is.
Yes.
And it's running with it. It's just, it's leaning full into the ridiculousness of how all of this happens. Honestly, if they had used the easel, though, it would have been so funny.
That would have been amazing. I think they should have, honestly.
Me
but
too.
Will and Kate, we have other things going on. Maybe if it was February and it was a slow news week for the royals and they weren't going outside as much, but it's summer. The king is abroad. We got other things on our mind. But yeah, as for the reporting, I do love it. Hits beat for beat the notes that we are used to seeing in these types of royal stories, where the actual nugget of a story is quite small, but you have to follow it up. Orla featured in an emotional family video last September when Princess Kate revealed her chemotherapy had ended. The family welcomed Orla in 2020 as a gift from Kate's brother James. Although a much loved part of the family, family, Orla has only made a few public appearances. She was featured in Princess Charlotte's 7th birthday photos in 2022 and also pictured at a charity polo match later that year.
So is she a part-time working royal? Because it kind of seems like there's precedent for this.
I don't know if Orla's on the payroll, though. She might just be a private member of the small r royal family, much like a royal cousin.
At this point, though, if you're looking at a slimmed-down monarchy, you would think that the upkeep for paying, four-legged members of the family, it would be cheaper, and it's adorable. People love dogs. Why aren't they bringing out dogs for these ribbon cuttings? Think about it. It would be so much cheaper. Now, the pooping would be a little weird.
Kate and William have been ramping up Orla's social media presence. They posted a picture of her last month for National Pet Day, and this is a weight on Orla's shoulders. She was captioned with celebrating the animals who bring so much joy, companionship, and love to our lives.
Now, what she's showing at that point was Star Magazine or whatever being like bump alert.
It was probably an old photo taken from a previous photo shoot and just repurposed.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my instinct. But there you go. Royal joy.
I'm
royal baby announcement.
Very happy for everyone. I would like to start some speculation on who the father could be. I'm just saying.
Ooh, maybe there is the one dog that we see every year. It's the Irish Guards mascot. I think his name is Seamus.
Ooh.
But that would not be in line with, breeding standards. This
we
could
don't
be
know
a new era.
Are looking at. What if it's a royal scandal?
Marrying into the royal puppy bloodline.
She's sullied. The bloodline is sullied. It's exotic DNA, to quote
allegedly
one prime minister's journalist sister.
Jesus Christmas
with my mug. Okay. That was fun. So next we want to talk about an article from Fast Company about Meghan's businesses. Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, sat down with journalist Elizabeth Segrin with Fast Company to discuss her brands, her business ventures, and when we might see some new products from As Ever. Because despite the many people asking me when there will be a second drop, I don't have access to the production schedule.
We don't have the direct line now.
I can't actually predict that. And one of the reasons we did want to talk about this is because it is about her business and what she's doing. And it's direct quotes. She sat down with this journalist to discuss her business ventures, the Netflix partnership, all of that stuff. So Amanda, do you want to kick it off? Some of your reactions from this piece?
Yes. It seems that this was just an overarching discussion about how Meghan is going to build on the success that came out of early 2025. So they're discussing her Netflix show, her brand dropping, as well as her Lemonada podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder. It's a conversation where we get a lot of insight into Meghan's hopes and dreams for her brand and her platform, but not a lot of concrete updates. So we have a paragraph here titled "What Comes Next for As Ever," underscoring that it was a runaway success. The site sold out in 45 minutes, and now Meghan is planning with the As Ever team the quote next phase of the brand. Meghan told Fast Company that she wants to take a step back, gather data from the launch, and figure out exactly what As Ever could be. She says she's planning to announce new products in the first quarter of 2026, not drop new products, announce new products. So I'm a little discouraged if we were hoping for another drop this year. Don't you think they would have mentioned that in this interview, Meredith?
This is what I can't fully understand.
Yeah.
Because I have two thoughts here. Obviously, announcing new products is different than dropping restocks of existing products, but perhaps there is going to be this surprise drop in the summer of products and restock, and people are gonna be like, oh my god, here it is. Like she's a genius because she wasn't telling us everything. Like it's always like
the wording is always so intentional when she does these interviews without something like imminently on the horizon. The same sort of thing happens farther down when she's talking about Confessions of a Female Founder, which was 8 episodes. The finale launched this week. It was with the founder of Spanx. And as with As Ever, they write of the Lemonada deal, there's interest in doing a second season of Confessions of a Female Founder. Many female founders have approached Meghan to be a guest on the series, but Meghan is now involved in such a wide range of projects, she's sure to find some way to tell her story. I think I said this when As Ever and With Love Meghan were kind of being teased out, and the Lemonada deal was finally coming to fruition. She hasn't settled into a niche.
No.
And I got some backlash for saying that. And people were saying, well, she doesn't have to, which is true. And she says here, if I had to write a resume, I don't know what I would call myself. I think it speaks to this chapter many of us find ourselves in, where none of us are one note. But I believe all the notes I am playing are part of the same song. So she's absolutely not done settling into a niche. And again, she doesn't necessarily have to, but at some point, aren't you looking to just build something that can last beyond a season? Would be my question.
I just don't understand some of the calculations or the packaging of it. You could view it as refreshing that someone's saying, I have a lot of interests and passions that I'm exploring.
She talks about fashion in the interview too. That's being something she wants to loop in at some point, which great. I would love that.
But also, when you're someone of this magnitude, like when you're a person of like, just with everything that's going on and just the size of your platform, it seems weird that you wouldn't have like a tighter message or
timeline
or future plan of what this is all looking like, because there's clearly a through line with all of it, especially for me with the like what we do know is that there's going to be a second season of Would Love Megan. That's happening.
Yes. And Netflix announced that right after the first one dropped.
So that is very popular. The line was extremely popular. So unless something is going on behind the scenes with the line, something with Netflix, something that we don't understand, I do not understand why they aren't just restocking all the products
or putting out a pre-order for something, because I think the only thing from my understanding that was truly from Megan's little Montecito bubble was the honey, which was very limited edition. The preserves, the spread, is said to be inspired by her recipe. She's not actually cooking it up in her kitchen. There is a production facility involved here. And so, yes, I don't understand why we need to take the step back and gather data from the launch. People are going to buy whatever she puts out. I'm going to buy from whatever launch she puts out.
I want that jam. I want more jam. I want more fruit spread. Of course,
even though she said seasonal quarterly drops after the first honey run sold out.
And I don't understand, because I don't know a lot about her TIG days, which was that more of just a blog that she maintained with affiliate links and stuff?
I believe so. I don't think she's ever had branded items before.
And that's a different beast for sure. But there is this strange pattern of kind of promising a little too much when you're under a microscope.
And we discussed too in the article how the brand is backed by Netflix and what that looks like, because there have been other product lines related to Netflix shows where the branding was the same. Bridgerton, I'm trying to think, Stranger Things, Squid Games was another. But Megan says that the team decided it made sense for As Ever to exist on its own without any of that Netflix branding. So it's not called With Love Megan. That's why it's called As Ever. She says the brand is in the same universe as the show, but they're not the same. So that's great. But then what is Netflix looking to get out of this partnership if it's not continual restocks and drops and profitability to that level?
Yeah, I don't fully understand the deal as well. That's a really good point too, is what does this look like with Netflix? My thought that eventually it would be that in the show you would have the As Ever labels and stuff, you know, the products kind of featured throughout the show to kind of remind people. But if those products aren't for sale,
it's a missed opportunity.
The one part that I do love, and I do love that we're discussing this and we're kind of showing how the sausage gets made, is that she talks about how, you know, she had been working towards building out her own in-house team and doing her own thing, which was American Riviera Orchard. But then she says, quote, I had a complete U-turn because I completely bought into the vision she was sharing, which was the chief content officer at Netflix, which is where content and commerce meet, not in a product placement way, which I guess is what we were talking about, but rather in an ideological way, which
it sounds like someone sold her on the idea of Netflix backing the products. That's what that sounds like.
Or it's also like, wait, it would be way easier to do it this way and take some of the headaches off of my plate.
But we're wrapping it up. And again, this isn't a negative. I believe that she does this to sell it to the public.
But
I bought into the vision.
It's our ideological. I get it. Like, listen, I totally get
You can just say this was easier. I think
this was this was such a, like, you're like, oh, a brand will be great. And then you're like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. And then you realize that with Netflix, they probably have all of these, you know,
the
production infrastructure.
There.
You're like, okay, yeah, I would like to use the existing infrastructure, but I'm going to be smart and I'm going to make it my own entity and stuff, just in case I move on from With Love Megan. It's all very smart. It's just like,
it is.
I don't understand why we can't just lay it down.
Complex.
I don't understand why we can't just lay it down though in like this, like, I made some really smart kind of moves and not this like, well, just like ideologically, blah, blah, blah. I don't like, let's just say it.
I wanted to start this brand, but I'm also a mom and I'm also looking at content production. So it made sense to bring in a partner who I could share the load with. That is smart. I
don't understand some of the way that her decisions are framed, because I
think
positioning. And I think some of them are actually way smarter than the way it's positioned in this kind of like soul contract. That soul contract is going to be my go-to way for describing that way of speaking that kind of negates how difficult and arduous and at times like kind of cutthroat. Like I just think
because Megan's Confessions of a Female Founder podcast, I think in a way is her embarking on her own journey to become a CEO and speaking with these entrepreneurs and getting advice for herself and then packaging it immediately and selling it to us as well. Not selling it, but sending it out to us as well. I just think it's interesting to take a step back and look at Megan's ethos as a CEO, a brand owner, a content mogul, a philanthropist, all of these hats that she wears. There are connecting through lines to all of them. It's just when we get into that nitty gritty, the ideological tenants aligned with Netflix as a financial backer. And it's just like, okay.
It's like, no, actually, you made a really smart decision, which is this is really hard to do. There are so many eyes on you that doing this with infrastructure in place, but also maintaining your own brand and having flexibility over what that brand's going to look like is smart as hell. And let's just say it. Let's just put it out there that it's smart as hell.
For sure. I don't know. I'm disappointed the jam's not getting restocked because I went through that jam so quickly.
Me too. I would not have made that dang cake if I had known that I would not be getting my spread.
I need a subscribe ability too. You know how you can like subscribe to your auto deliveries of like your Clever Blend lattes?
That would have been such a smart idea. They don't understand. They could be making money hand over fist. Like I'm just
there
confused.
Must have been some production delay.
There's got to be something else going on. Like I don't know what. But it's not just this.
And the timing to do this interview too maybe plays into, okay, the first season of the podcast is ending. There's not an imminent restock with As Ever. So let's now take this step back, do a little profile with Fast Company. She shared a behind the scenes look at the photo shoot for the podcast on her Instagram the other day. So now I feel like we're headed into that lull period where there aren't actual products to consume. So we're going to be consuming the idea of those products.
I wonder too, if it was released this morning, they're like, well, the King's Speech is out. Maybe no one will notice this.
Maybe no one will notice almost.
I think it might.
So you can't say we're not being transparent, but we're still
I think they're going to find it eventually.
Well, let us know your thoughts on this delay. Well, you know, it could be that a restock is coming and we will have to eat some crow live on air once again. But I feel
in our defense,
in my bones.
In our defense, though, the article does not make it sound like this. It says, but instead of reason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. So let us know. Are you disappointed? Are you, I don't know.
Do you wish you had saved that fruit spread?
Seriously.
Because I do. I'm mad.
It was so good.
It was so good. I keep thinking about how good it would be with my yogurt or at the bottom with some ice cream. And
how
I'm just,
I finished
really
it,
sad.
I put some cottage cheese in the jar before I washed it out and just, it was so good.
Pour one out. I have my jar still and I love the label because it's so cute.
I have the jar too. Mm-hmm.
And I have little flowers in it. It's so cute.
Adorable.
See, we want more. We don't want this. I want more. I want to be where the fruit is filled.
Oh my gosh. The biggest royal story this week, though, has been following King Charles III on his visit to Canada. Now, this wasn't really a royal tour From what I saw, he was kind of just in Ottawa the entire time. It was like a less than 48-hour visit, all told. But the biggest theme of this visit, Meredith, I think, was, hey, Donald Trump, Canada is not going to be your 51st state.
That is definitely my impression. My impression is that this was very much PM Mark Carney saying, hey, Donald Trump, this is actually, just as a reminder, a little history lesson. We're part of a commonwealth where King Charles, you know, the monarchy, the thing that you really love and are obsessed with, is actually our head of state. So you can't just annex us. And also Keir Starmer, PM of the UK, not really down with the way you're approaching Donald Trump. Might work for you, but clearly he's really messing with us and tariffs and threatening to annex us. So we're going to just invite the king to open parliament and, send a little message ourselves through the king.
It's like a little Mexican standoff between the UK government-wise, UK, Canada, US, and then King Charles is like in the middle, kind of being bounced around, like, I don't know, Hungry Hippo style.
Yes, he's
really
a pawn.
Kind of is in this instance, where it's the soft power of the monarchy that was in play here. Although I do love, so Trump, as we know, loves monarchy. He is utterly enamored with the royals. And remember when he held up that little letter, his personal letter from King Charles, inviting him for an unprecedented second state visit? That state visit's not happening this year. That has been pushed to next year because the palace and the government said, oh, no, sir, we need time to prepare. We need to get everything in order. Meanwhile, this
There's so
Canada
much gold
visit,
that we need to, get
guild,
ready. Yes.
the carpet or whatever. This Canada visit, compared to that, has been thrown together. That's why it was so quick. Charles visited Ottawa to open Parliament, which is something that the monarch has only done twice before this. Queen Elizabeth opened Parliament, gave the speech from the throne twice, in 1957 and in 1977. So there's also been this almost 50-year gap in that programming. So that gives you kind of a sense of like the occasion that this was being treated as in Canada. The last time a monarch did this speech was the Silver Jubilee, I guess that would have been Queen Elizabeth's 25th year on the throne. And now, the trip to Canada was Charles' first trip there as monarch. But he and Camilla also did a visit shortly before the coronation, if I'm remembering correctly. So it wasn't necessarily time to get another tour in, but it was time to say, hey, UK and Canada have this shared history. The monarch is still the head of state, and kind of a nod to that in the face of Trump threatening to annex or saying that Canada would be better off as the 51st state, which is something that Mark Carney, the new Prime Minister of Canada, has very explicitly rejected. And Carney's Liberal government would have been the ones to write Charles' speech from the throne today. So there's an interesting loop happening there as well.
And with Carney, it wasn't seen that the Liberal Party would win. Trudeau has been in power for quite some time. The Conservatives, it was looking like the Conservatives were going to take it. And Carney, who is a finance guy, he's a finance bro. He worked for Goldman
ran
Sachs,
several national banks, I think.
The Bank of Canada, the Bank of England. This is a finance guy. He understands how to deal with people like Donald Trump, and someone like Donald Trump would have some sort of kind of begrudging respect for someone like Mark Carney, who looks very much like the business guy that he knows. And he also ran on this anti-Trump, we're not for sale. We're not playing with you. And he won on a very anti-Trump message. And so the idea that then he would say, you know what? We are really going to hammer this home. And the only way opening of Parliament in Canada is going to get any sort of traction is by having the king come and read the throne speech, which, like you said, it's written by the government to outline their initiatives. But obviously there is and was something about sovereignty and the North is true and free, which is a quote that's being passed around from the speech. Having Charles utter that and not the Governor General, who usually gives the speech on behalf of the crown, that is powerful. Mark Carney understands optics. He understands that someone like Donald Trump response to pageantry. But also, if you're Canadian, I imagine, and not every Canadian, that the pageantry, hearing the national anthem, seeing the 21 gun salute, seeing the pride, that probably feels really good too, and a reminder of, kind of like the Olympics makes us all proud to be Americans for like 2 weeks.
2 seconds. Yeah. I think
it's like that.
I think I saw someone describe it as like the backbone of Canada's sovereignty. The monarchy, there is this kind of fraught history when it comes to Canada because Canada was a former colony. There was the Confederation, and you still have Indigenous First Nations communities pushing for treaties to be recognized. And on typical royal visits, that is a huge focus where the First Nations are advocating for themselves, getting in the room with King Charles, who has also said that he wants there to be a little bit more understanding and reconciliation of those past wrongs. But yeah, today arriving at Parliament, it was almost, and I don't want to speak for anybody, the sense I was getting was we are putting a pin in that for now. A lot of Indigenous community leaders were at the opening of Parliament. King Charles rolled up in his horse-drawn carriage. There weren't any crown jewels on display because the crown jewels can't leave the United Kingdom. So I think that helped in a lot of ways.
No robes. There were
no robes. He was in a suit. He had his military medals on. Camilla had this nice navy blue hat. She looked good. I don't know.
Sure.
She looked fine. It was very stately. It was very respectable. And I think seeing that pageantry is something that even if Trump himself isn't watching, because I don't know if Fox News would have been covering it. No, I was on the BBC, right? the soft power statements there, I think, will get through. And it just says, listen, like, this is where our past history is. This is who is still looking out for us. We're part of the Commonwealth. Back off, dude.
Yeah, lay off. And it's funny because I was looking at articles before the speech and how people were framing it. US media, UK media, and Canadian media. And US media actually spoke with the Canadian ambassador, so appointed by the Trump administration, who kind of said, Canadians should get over it. Trump's like way past that whole, he's not even thinking about it anymore. It's a nothing burger, essentially.
I saw that.
Which, yeah, cute, I guess, but also you threatened the sovereignty of a nation. So,
and like Canada has been taking that so seriously, as they should.
Yes.
Whereas Americans, we are so used to the batshit stuff that Trump says one day, and then he's on to the next thing. So I think it is easy to get caught up in that loop of the 24-hour news cycle and Trump's Truth Social posts. Like the Memorial Day one was just crazy this week, but like to Canadians, this was a very real threat. So I like that they responded with this very stately visit. It didn't necessarily pull anything out of the box that we haven't seen before from a royal visit, but the timing of it is what was important.
And I think it's smart to take it seriously. And as of right now, I have not seen, we are recording this right now, it's Tuesday, it's 1 p.m. And I haven't seen if Trump has made any responses, but it's really kind of put them in a situation where, yeah, they're taking it super, super seriously. So if you're going to take the path of get over it, I wasn't being serious, well, that's really crazy behavior. And that kind of makes you look dumb. Yes. And are you going to say anything that goes against the king? Like, are you going to do anything to upset that? What I find most interesting is this is a situation where Charles has prime ministers that he needs to, work on the behalf of, right? He does these things on the behest of the prime ministers of the UK, Canada, who right now have different objectives. The UK is looking to keep a positive relationship with the US and with trade agreements and everything. Keir Starmer has a different way of approaching this. Mark Carney has been critical of that decision to invite Trump of this. He does not
court him.
To court him. Does not approve of it. Canada wants to send a message. Right now, their sovereignty is threatened and trade agreements because they are very dependent on import-exports with the U.S. And that's one of the reasons why Carney is looking to expand trade partnerships with other countries, including the UK, because one of the things that they're hoping is going to start back up are these negotiations with the UK, which fell apart last year over cheese, which feels not the cheese with the UK, with these Brexit agreements that they're still trying to iron out. So it's kind of interesting watching Charles kind of having to be the soft power king for everyone.
And he almost said that outright in the speech, and we don't know what was written by whom. Charles does get to give a short personal introduction, but in his speech, he had a little section here. He says, "Many Canadians are feeling anxious and worried about the drastically changing world around them. Fundamental change is always unsettling. Yet this moment is also an incredible opportunity for renewal, an opportunity to think big and to act bigger, an opportunity for Canada to embark on the largest transformation of its economy since the Second World War. Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power on any continent can ever take away. And that by staying true to Canadian values, Canada can build new alliances and a new economy that serves all Canadians."
That is almost certainly the government.
That's a royal mic drop.
Yeah, that has to be written by the government, because it sounds very much like Carney's initiative. But it is,
getting Charles to say it is what will get Trump's attention. Because the prime minister, U.S. ambassador to Canada, can say all he wants. Just pick up the phone and call me. You don't just get to pick up the phone and call King Charles. He doesn't even have a cell phone, okay?
Can't call him famously.
So I think this visit was a success. I think if any visit recently could have been called a charm offensive, it was this one. Or maybe it was a charm defensive.
Yeah, and really, I don't know if Charles could have really screwed this up unless he started, I don't know, if he just went off script. I don't think there was really a way to fail at this.
The one thing I saw, there were a few First Nations leaders from Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan who wanted to be in the room with him but did not get audiences in the official itinerary. And so that I think we can't put to the side entirely. There are still Indigenous communities in Canada looking for treaties to be honored, and they look to Charles as the person to put pressure on Parliament to do that. However, the visit was very short, so defenders of Charles would say, well, he just didn't have time. That wasn't the point of this visit. This is all, playing into the complicated relationship of Canada, the Commonwealth, and the UK.
So that would be the win for Carney. I just think it's a win for Canada's new government. To me, it's not even about Charles.
No,
really.
It wasn't. And I think that's what people would say. Like, that wasn't the point of this visit, if you want to talk about the First Nations aspect. Although there were some groups that were received when he arrived. The Governor General, Mary Simon, is also the first Indigenous Governor General who is the official representative of the monarch in Canada. So I think that isn't going away, his focus on reconciliation. It's just, it was put on the back burner for this, again, very, very quick, almost impromptu by royal standards visit.
Can I read you,
please,
one of my favorite parts from a Times article from a royal editor or associate editor?
Okay.
Tell me what this maybe reminds you of. Okay. So the 2-day trip is described as short and sweet by a source. Goes on to say, the king is said to be mindful that his time in Canada is limited, but is very much looking forward to and hopes it will be impactful. He will shake as many hands, inspect as many troops, and have as many photo calls as possible. So this is a short, impactful trip.
Would you call King Charles perhaps a global statesman?
Would you call us a kind of a modern, refreshing look at the royal tour?
Does it not, a new working model that is having an impact?
Does it not sound like they took that a source close to Charles, whoever that is?
So freaking
they
funny.
They took the language that has been everywhere recently about William's way and the modern monarchy, and they used it here.
Snaps,
bravo.
Snaps King Charles.
If we're talking about
that's
wins,
how you do it.
That's the win. I read that and I said, oh.
Well, speaking of wins, in style pages today, I want to have a moment for one of Queen Camilla, one of my favorite accessories that Queen Camilla carries on these engagements.
Where do I find this thing?
Just Google Queen Camilla big umbrella.
God.
She brought it with her to Canada. It's one of those bubble umbrellas, so it's like a
oh my God, I had one of these in Boston. Let me tell you, not a great umbrella for walking around Boston. I had it from Urban Outfitters. It was massive.
So the one thing with Camilla is she will put her entire head in that umbrella, I presume to protect the feathered hair.
Bless her.
There are several pictures. I put them on my Instagram story. I will post them on the
she
podcast
really
Instagram
does.
this week too. She puts her whole head in. She will stand there. If it's raining, she wants to protect that hairdo. Maybe she has another engagement later in the day. We don't know. She will stand there full torso in this umbrella.
Know what it looks like?
And I just love that it's such a staple in her wardrobe.
If you've ever been to the aquarium with a child and they have those little kind of play areas and they have the bubble dome thing, so the child can go under and can kind of poke their head out. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
I love it. Queen Camilla, you keep carrying that big umbrella.
Keep calm and carry a big ass bubble umbrella.
Transition?
Talk about a real Camilla effect.
Indeed. I think we should bring the bubble umbrellas back, you know. I think they're practical.
Honestly,
maybe not if you're walking around, but if you're standing in one place listening to a 21 gun salute, just pop your head in that thing. You're good.
Or your favorite podcast. I don't know. Or your favorite podcast.
So our last story I wanted to bring in today, not to pick at the reporting, but really just to talk about the fact that this is being reported at all. We have a royal relative, Flora Vesterberg, née Ogilvy. So she is Princess Alexandra's granddaughter. I believe she is 62nd in line to the British throne. She has
far. Keep it up. Keep it up, girl.
I always think about what a girl wants when they talk about Amanda Bynes, like the snooty girls are talking about her, and she's like, 38 people would need to die for her to be queen. And another girl goes, well, it's far less than the 72 you'd need. I always think about that. We should do a watch.
We have to do a rewatch. Christopher asked for it, actually, so. Yeah.
But so 62nd in line to the British throne, still a royal who we see on the circuit. She gets invited to the Christmas lunches. Flora Vesterberg penned a personal essay for British Vogue this week where she revealed she has received an autism diagnosis at age 30. And she discusses how that diagnosis has changed her life for the better, which, bravo. I think this is incredible. A testament to the way that minor royals are starting to have more of a space to talk about their personal lives, and also the growing role of mental health in our conversation, whether it's, you know, on the broader sphere or in royal world.
It was unexpected, but it was super refreshing to see someone candidly talk about their diagnosis, especially in the face of so many, particularly women, millennial women, finding out in their 30s that they are neurodivergent. I mean, that happened to me, really, of realizing that while we were trying to, you know, navigate with one of my children, different diagnoses of realizing, oh my God, do I have ADHD? Which is not something, because back when I was growing up, it was something that you only had if you were a little boy who couldn't sit still,
right?
You know, and that's what it was. And there were so many times where it just felt like I was like, I don't think my brain works like other people's, and I don't think this is how. And just not only getting the diagnosis, but like she says, understanding how her brain works. And she, you know, she says that like she felt overwhelmed by the limitations of having this undiagnosed condition, and that it is empowering to know what you have. And it's not a label, but it's a chance for you to better understand yourself, what this means, and how, because there are things and I'm only speaking to my experience about ADHD that I didn't even realize. I did not realize the different ways it could present and be a superpower, and also something that you have to kind of work with. And also with autism, and the way that autism and ADHD, especially in women, overlap. So you go, girl. I'm so proud of her for starting this conversation.
She talks about seeking out diagnosis before she begins her PhD at the Courtauld Institute of Art. She is an art historian currently. And after receiving the diagnosis, she says she learned how many autistic women are masking or mimicking social norms that they see without really understanding. And now she has a toolbox almost to help scheduling quiet moments as well as soothing time in nature to help her cope with sensory issues, because her job and her family, you know, she has to speak at engagements. This all requires her to be very public and to be in these social situations. So she's been learning apparently to balance, and it's, I can only imagine, so freeing to have real language to describe that need for yourself. So she did write a whole essay for British Vogue. In it, she talks about how she's reflecting on the diagnosis, particularly during Autism Awareness Month, and how the National Autistic Society has released a thought-provoking campaign called Now I Know, and that's particularly resonating with her as well. So I would encourage you to go read the essay. I will try and link it in the show notes if I remember.
Well, and especially right now, and not that Not that she is doing it with this lens in mind, but obviously, as we are American, you know, the fact that we have a health and human services director who has said terrible things about people with autism, about their chances of success, about what they can do later in life, about how even someone is autistic and what causes it. Having people like this person embarking on their PhD discussing their autism so openly and giving a name and a face to it and dispelling some of these, it's powerful. It's a powerful, powerful story. And I think it takes a lot of bravery, especially as someone who is connected to the royal family, because I don't know if we really have ever have we ever really heard of a royal struggling with, I mean, besides Harry kind of talking about struggling with PTSD kind of from serving,
Yeah.
I can't really think of it.
So far, you know, the way the royals talk about mental health is very much from an up here level.
Yep.
They're very much looking, I don't want to say looking down on, but looking in at other organizations that do this work, at other people either struggling or coping with their mental health diagnoses. And there was almost, when Prince Harry talked about his PTSD, this mocking tone to a lot of the press about it. And
Yeah.
you even had Kate saying to somebody, well, you know, talk therapy doesn't work for everyone. And it's just like, do you actually understand what goes into this? Like, it's different for everyone, and all this stuff that we need to talk about openly in order to progress in this space. So yeah, I think this is the first time a royal has spoken out in this way about receiving a diagnosis, because it's very clear that this is working into her platform. You know, she talks about getting her PhD, and she holds philanthropic roles at her institute where she's getting her PhD, and also at the Victoria and Albert Museum that involve large-scale exhibition openings. So you think, you know, this all plays together for her in her work life, her philanthropic life. It's so hard to describe how these people operate. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
no, I do.
It's almost institutionally sanctioned in a certain way that we haven't seen before. So yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised to see this come across my feed yesterday.
I hope this is something that, you know, continues. And makes it easier for, I don't know, other royals, future royals, the way royals are covered that maybe struggle from mental illness, or, you know, or learning to navigate the world. I even think in, you know, American politics with Tim Walz's son, who, you know, that famous moment during the campaign where he stands up at the convention and yells, "That's my dad," and he's crying and he's emotional. And, you know, obviously it's a beautiful moment of just a son unabashedly loving his father, which we should just be comfortable with that kind of, you know, masculine sentiment. Like, that should be fine. And he is someone who has a nonverbal learning disorder, ADHD, anxiety. And the way the press covered it, though, was gross for the most part.
Yes.
You know, and so hopefully just the more people that come out and talk about this, or, you know, have to do things like, hey, I have to do this soothing technique or this thing to operate in this world. Like, hopefully these things can just become more normalized, you know, because
Absolutely.
we need all sorts of different brains in this world. Because how boring would it be if it was just all neurotypical brains?
And it's never just been neurotypical brains. I think this is one thing that RFK does not understand is
no. Because
people with learning differences,
a worm is eating his brain.
People with learning differences have always been here, but they've been hidden away. They've died at a younger age. They haven't received the support. They have masked to get through daily life and to get by in a society that really looked down on them. Those stigmas breaking down are why we are able to have these conversations, and why people with learning differences and mental illnesses are able to be visible in society. So just a little moment of correcting the record, because your survivorship bias was showing RFK.
You go, Flora.
You go, Flora Vesterberg. Love to see it.
We love it.
Well, did we do it?
What a coffee talk. I have to tell you just a little behind the scenes. The way today has worked is, and why Amanda's wearing a different top. We literally we literally started with Amanda in a blazer recording, and then we had to jump off and record in the past from the future. Woo! A little interview that we're doing that's going to drop at some point.
Which I knew tonally did not call for a blazer.
Not a blazer moment. And then we hopped back on. Pop-Tarts were consumed at some point. I don't remember when.
I only got to eat half a Pop-Tart, Meredith.
Oh, that is sad. What flavor?
I gotta go.
What flavor?
They are lemon blueberry crumble. They are limited edition.
Excuse me?
They're so good.
Where did you find these?
Wise Markets.
What the heck is a Wise Market?
It's like our local grocery store chain. I love this grocery store, and they had lemon blueberry crumble Pop-Tarts this week.
I would like to go there with you. But yeah, basically that's a lot to say that this has been this Frankenstein episode.
Yes. So excuse any editing snafus.
We're trying so hard.
Piece it together. Okay. Also, next week we will be bringing you, hopefully, part 2 of our discussion of rival courts.
We have not forgotten about that. It was just, this was clearly a coffee talk type situation. Before we go, of course, thank you to our Patreon press secretaries for keeping it all straight for us. That's Molly and Nikki. And of course, our new crown jewel, Sir Christopher.
Thank you so much.
Baby flower breath of my heart. I forget what his title is.
I like that. Baby flower breath of my heart.
Baby flower breath of my heart.
Keep it in.
Keep it. Keep it. Don't cut it. I love it. I act like there's a different editor. It's Amanda.
It's me. Well, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for hanging on to the bitter end with us if you're still here. And we will see you in the next one.
Bye.